Smith, who's now 53, and Lily Smith, who's 49. They were like my new mom and dad. But things changed a lot when I turned 11. That's when I had to go live with my adoptive mom, Lily's mom, Olivia, who's 67. I call her Grandma. This happened because, well, Heather and Lily sort of didn't want me around anymore, which was really tough because things hadn't always been like that. See, before they adopted me, Heather and Lily had been trying to have a kid for like 6 years with no luck. After they adopted me, they were super loving. I had this amazing childhood where they treated me like I was super special, kind of like a princess. They'd spoil me with attention and gifts, and we'd have these awesome weekends just packed with fun stuff to do. They always told me how lucky they felt to have me, and I felt like the luckiest kid ever because of it. But then, when I was 9, everything started to change. Lily got pregnant and had my little brother. I was super excited at first because I'd always wanted a sibling, but pretty soon, it was clear that my adoptive parents were paying a lot more attention to my brother, and I started to feel like I was just in the way. When my parents first brought home a new baby brother, I totally got that they had a lot on their plate. Babies are a handful, right? So, I stepped up, trying to do as much as I could on my own, like a mini adult, to make things easier for everyone. I did my homework without being asked, cleaned up my room, and sometimes even tried to help with the baby stuff, although I was pretty clueless about it. But as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, I started to feel like I was invisible, except when it came to chores. Suddenly, it was like there was an invisible do not cross line around my baby brother, and I was on the outside. I was the one who had to vacuum, do the dishes, and pretty much keep the house running. It was tough, but I kept telling myself that this is just what happens when you're the older sister. You're supposed to be the responsible one, the helper, the one who doesn't make a fuss. Even though I was doing my best, my parents would sometimes lose their temper if things weren't done just right, or if I couldn't keep up with everything they expected. It really hurt, but I didn't want to make things harder for them, so I just tried harder. Then came my 10th birthday, a day I thought would be a little bit about me. But it wasn't. My adoptive parents completely forgot about it. They planned a day out with my brother, leaving me behind without a second thought. There I was, sitting in front of the TV, spooning cereal into my mouth, alone. It felt like a punch in the gut, but I tried to shrug it off, thinking maybe this is just what it's like in my new family. Maybe birthdays just aren't a big deal here, or maybe I needed to give them more time to adjust to being a family of 4 instead of 3. But things didn't get better. Actually, they got worse. A few months later, I caught the flu. It was the real deal. I was burning up, coughing, and could barely get out of bed. But when I told my adoptive parents, they brushed it off. They said I was faking it, just trying to grab some attention away from my brother. They refused to take me to the doctor, leaving me to fend for myself while they lavished attention on him, teaching him new words and playing games. There I was, sick and alone, listening to the sounds of my family together in another room, feeling more left out and neglected than ever. It was a low point, and it made me wonder if things were ever going to change, or if this was just how it was going to be from now on. That day, it hit me really hard that I wasn't the main character in our family story anymore. It felt like, because I was adopted, I had been moved to the back burner, and this hurt a lot. I found myself crying at night, especially when I could hear my parents singing sweet songs to my brother, the same way they used to sing to me. It was like a reminder that things had changed. They started missing out on big moments in my life, stuff that was really important to me. They weren't there for my first school talent show, where I was super nervous but excited to show what I could do. They missed my very first dance recital, where I had practiced for weeks to get the steps right. And they also didn't come to my first swim meet, even though I had been looking forward to it for ages. My grandma was pretty much the only person who treated me like I mattered a lot to her. Every time she had to go home after visiting, I'd end up crying because it felt so nice to be cared about and so sad when it was over. When I turned 12, my parents said it would be good for me to stay with Grandma for a while. Honestly, I wasn't shocked at all. Actually, I felt a sense of relief. I really loved my grandma, and I knew she loved me back just like I was her own flesh and blood granddaughter, not just adopted. I didn't bother asking my parents why they wanted me to go or try to argue about it. I just went to my room, packed my bags, and waited quietly. Moving in with Grandma, I automatically started doing chores around her house, just like I used to do at home. But Grandma could tell something was off. When I opened up and told her how I had been treated, she was super upset. She decided to talk to my parents about it, but she did it in a way that wasn't too obvious, because she didn't want to cause a big scene. One day, something big happened. I accidentally heard Grandma talking to Lily, my adoptive mom. Lily was being really honest and said she didn't feel close to me anymore. She even thought it would be better for me to live with Grandma. After hearing that, Grandma made a huge decision. She decided she didn't want anything to do with Lily and my adoptive dad anymore because she couldn't understand how they could be so cold. So we stopped talking about them completely. It was like they weren't a part of our lives anymore. During this time, I discovered something I really loved: swimming. It turned out I was pretty good at it too. Grandma was always there, cheering me on, making me feel special. She was like my personal fan club president. Even though I was doing great and we were happy, there was this little worry in the back of my mind. What if Grandma stopped loving me one day, just like my adoptive parents did? But it's been 10 years and she's still the same awesome grandma. She gives me hugs, makes my favorite meals, and supports me in everything. I just wanted to make her proud and show her how much her love meant to me. Then something amazing happened. I won the state swimming championship. It was a huge deal because no one from our little town had ever done that before. I was in the newspapers and everything. Of course, I made sure everyone knew how much Grandma helped me get there. I dedicated my win to her, telling everyone she was the best family anyone could ever wish for. Out of the blue, a week after my big win, I got a message from Auntie and Lily. They said they missed me and wanted to fix things between us. They even admitted they were wrong and asked me to come over for dinner. I was really shocked and didn't know what to think. Part of me was still really upset with them, but another part of me really missed them and my little brother. It was a tough spot to be in, trying to decide if I should stay mad or if I should give them a chance to make things right. So, after a lot of talking and thinking, I managed to get Grandma on board with the idea of me visiting my adoptive parents. She wasn't super excited about it, but she said okay. The dinner they planned was super fancy, like they were trying to impress someone. They told me my brother couldn't make it because he was at a summer camp, which was a bummer. At first, being there felt super weird, like when you start a conversation and can't think of what to say next. But as the evening went on, I found myself chatting and even laughing more than I thought I would. It kind of felt like maybe things with my adoptive parents were getting better. But then, the very next day, something happened that flipped everything upside down. I saw a post online from my adoptive parents, and you won't believe what they did. They were taking credit for all my swimming success, acting like they were the reason I won the state championship. They even shared photos from the dinner, saying stuff like, "Great parenting leads to great kids." To make it even more dramatic, they threw in some old photos of me from when I was little. My jaw hit the floor. People were all over the comments, praising them for being such wonderful parents and role models, especially to an adopted child. And there were Heather and Lily eating up all the attention, saying thank you left and right, and even talking to news outlets about how dedicated they've always been to their kids. I was speechless. It was like they were living in a fantasy world where they had been there for me all along, and now they were getting all this praise from people who didn't know the real story. It felt so fake and unfair, and I didn't know what to do with all the emotions I was feeling. After convincing Grandma that I should go see them, she said yes, but you could tell she wasn't thrilled about it. The dinner they set up was really fancy, more than what I was used to. They told me my brother couldn't come because he was at summer camp, which was a bummer. At first, everything felt super awkward, like we were strangers trying to make small talk. But as the night went on, we actually started to laugh and chat more than I thought we would. I left their house thinking maybe, just maybe, things were getting better between us. But then, the very next day, I saw something online that made my jaw drop. My adoptive parents had posted about the dinner, making it seem like they were the heroes of my swimming success story. They even shared photos from our dinner, calling it proof of their awesome parenting. They went all out, pulling out old photos of me from when I was little, trying to tug at everyone's heartstrings. The comments section was filled with people praising them, saying what great parents they were, especially to an adopted kid. Heather and Lily were eating it up, thanking everyone left and right, and even talking to news outlets about how they've always supported their kids. I was so mad I couldn't see straight. I went straight to Facebook and wrote this super long post. I spilled the beans about how they really hadn't been there for me, how Grandma was the one who actually raised me, and how they were just pretending to be involved to get attention. I didn't name names because I hoped they'd just realize they were wrong and back off. But my post blew up big time. It went viral, and suddenly everyone was talking about it. It stirred up a huge mess, with lots of people chiming in with their own opinions. So, after I shared my story on Facebook about how my adoptive parents were acting like they were super involved in my life when they weren't, people got really upset. I didn't even say who I was talking about, but it was pretty obvious to everyone. Tons of people started supporting me, saying it wasn't cool how they treated me. And guess what? It's only been like 5 days since I posted that, and now Lillian Heather, my adoptive mom, is blowing up my phone. She's super worried because she thinks the post makes them look bad, especially to people who might start thinking they were mean to their son too. She's begging me to delete the post because she's afraid it'll mess up their relationship with my brother and how others see them. She's like, please say you weren't talking about us. Now I'm stuck in a super awkward spot. On one hand, I could just take the post down to make their lives easier and sort of protect their image because after all, they did adopt me. But on the other hand, I feel like this is a big chance to shine a light on how some kids get ignored or treated badly, and maybe it could help someone else who's going through the same thing. It's a tough call because I'm not sure if I should save their reputation or keep pushing so people understand that neglecting someone isn't okay. Update 1. It's been more than a week now and I'm standing my ground. I haven't deleted my Facebook post. This morning I got another call from Heather and Lily. This time Lily started crying, really trying to get me to feel bad. So I just let everything out. I told her about all those nights I cried myself to sleep and how I felt so alone when I was sick with a fever, but they just thought I wanted attention. Instead of understanding, they pretty much called me ungrateful. After I hung up, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. So I decided to write another post. This one was even more direct. I talked about child abuse and neglect, and I didn't hold back this time. I used Heather and Lily's full names. Then I blocked their numbers. No more calls, no more begging. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. Through all of this, my grandma has been my rock. She's been there for me, giving me all the support I could ever ask for. It's like she's this endless source of strength and kindness. Whenever I feel like everything's too much, she's there to remind me that I'm not alone and that we can get through anything together. Update 2. After that intense conversation with Heather and Lily, where emotions ran high and accusations flew like arrows in a medieval battle, I found myself at a crossroads. The support from the online community was overwhelming, and it wasn't just about the swimming anymore. It was about standing up against neglect and recognizing the silent battles many adopted kids might be facing. Grandma, ever the lighthouse in my stormy sea, sat me down for one of our heart-to-hearts. She said, "Sarah, you've got a big heart, and what you've done takes courage. But remember, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace." Her words hit me hard. I've always known Grandma to be wise, but this was the kind of wisdom you'd expect to find in ancient scrolls. It made me realize that while Heather and Lily's actions were inexcusable, harboring resentment was only going to weigh me down. A few days after our talk, something unexpected happened. My brother, the one I hadn't seen since I was a little girl, reached out to me. He'd seen my post and everything that followed. "I had no idea," were his first words, and they opened the floodgates to a conversation that lasted hours. He told me about his life, how he'd always wondered about his big sister, and how he felt a void knowing I wasn't there. It was an emotional roller coaster, but by the end of it, we promised to keep in touch and try to build the sibling relationship we never had the chance to develop. Meanwhile, the fallout from my second post was astronomical. Heather and Lily were now the talk of the town, but not in the way they had hoped. People began questioning their great parenting, and some even started advocating for a more thorough look into adoption processes and post-adoption support systems. It was a bigger wave than I'd intended to make, but if it could spark a conversation that might protect other kids, then it was a wave worth riding. Despite the chaos, I made a decision. I wouldn't take down my posts, but I also wouldn't add fuel to the fire. I had said my piece, and now it was time to focus on healing and moving forward. I started seeing a therapist to work through the years of built-up resentment and hurt. It wasn't easy, dredging up all those memories and feelings, but it was necessary. Grandma was right by my side, attending family therapy sessions with me. It was during one of these sessions that I realized the full extent of her love and sacrifice. She had been my unwavering support, my guardian angel in human form. And now, it was my turn to be there for her, to show her that all her love and hard work hadn't been in vain. As for Heather and Lily, they eventually stopped trying to contact me. The public backlash and the conversations my posts had sparked seemed to have taken a toll on them. I heard through the grapevine that they were seeing a family counselor trying to work through their own issues. Part of me hoped that they would find some semblance of remorse for their actions, not for my sake, but for the sake of any future children who might cross their path. Life has a funny way of coming full circle. Here I was, once a little girl lost in a sea of neglect, now a young woman making waves, standing up for what's right. I've started volunteering with organizations that support adopted children, sharing my story and listening to theirs. It's become my mission to ensure that no child ever feels as forgotten as I did. And through it all, Grandma remains my rock. Our bond has only grown stronger, if that was even possible. I've come to understand that family isn't always about blood. It's about who you choose to love and who chooses to love you back, unconditionally. So, here's to new beginnings, to healing old wounds, and to finding peace in the chaos. The journey isn't over, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to see where it leads. Update 3. Since my last update, the situation has evolved in ways I could never have anticipated, turning my life into a whirlwind of emotions, confrontations, and unexpected support from corners I hadn't imagined would come forward. Here's what's gone down. After I publicly named Heather and Lily, the backlash against them intensified. My post sparked a larger conversation about adoption, neglect, and the facade some people maintain on social media versus reality. The local news picked up the story, and suddenly my small town was buzzing with debates and discussions about adoptive parents' responsibilities and the often hidden struggles of adopted children. Heather and Lily tried to counteract the narrative by giving their side of the story to anyone who would listen. They painted a picture of me as a troubled child who misinterpreted their actions and affection. But their attempts fell flat, especially when people from our community, who'd seen the shift in their behavior after my brother was born, began to share their observations. In a surprising turn of events, my brother, who I hadn't seen or spoken to since I was adopted, reached out to me. He'd seen the news and read my posts. At 13, he's old enough to understand the gravity of the situation and had his own grievances about how our parents had been raising him. We met at a cafe, and the connection was instant. Despite the years and circumstances that separated us, we bonded over shared experiences and the mutual feeling of being sidelined by our parents. Our meeting wasn't just a reunion, it was the beginning of a new chapter for both of us. We agreed to keep in touch and support each other, regardless of what was happening with Heather and Lily. Grandma Rosemary, my rock through all of this, encouraged me to use this newfound attention for something positive. With her guidance, I started a blog and a YouTube channel where I shared my story more in depth, talked about the realities of adoption and neglect, and offered support to others going through similar experiences. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from around the world from people sharing their stories, seeking advice, or simply offering their support. As for Heather and Lily, the public pressure and the negative attention became too much. They issued a public apology, acknowledging their mistakes and how they treated me and expressing regret for their actions. However, for me, the apology felt hollow, a last-ditch effort to salvage their tarnished reputation rather than a genuine acknowledgement of the pain they caused. The biggest surprise, though, came from Grandma Rosemary. She had been quietly working with a lawyer to ensure that I was legally recognized as her dependent. She wanted to make sure that I would never have to face uncertainty about my place in the family or worry about being abandoned again. On my 23rd birthday, she presented me with the legal documents, and we celebrated not just my birthday but the official beginning of our legal family unit. As for the swimming championship and the recognition that started all this, I've continued to compete and succeed, but now I do it for myself and for those who've genuinely supported me, my brother, Grandma Rosemary, and the community that rallied around me during the toughest times. This journey has taught me the value of speaking out, the strength found in vulnerability, and the importance of choosing one's family. I've also learned that forgiveness is a personal journey, one that cannot be rushed or faked. While I'm not ready to forgive Heather and Lily, I'm open to the possibility that time might change how I feel. In the meantime, I'm focused on building my relationship with my brother, supporting others through my blog and channel, and continuing to heal and grow with Grandma Rosemary by my side. The future feels brighter, and I'm determined to make the most of it, turning my past struggles into a source of strength and inspiration.